So, very good afternoon to everyone.
Good afternoon, sir.
Manish sir, Ashish
Good
sir,
afternoon, sir.
a very good afternoon. And everyone, every student who is a part of this webinar, I would like to say a very warm welcome and very good afternoon. So,
Good afternoon,
today,
sir.
yeah, today's session is focused on what is innovation, why it is so much a buzzing term, why innovation is so much of news as of now, and how the startup ecosystem enablers are helping the innovators, budding entrepreneurs to convert their innovations into a viable or profitable business, right? So, taking the forward, I would request Pankaj to start the presentation. Pankaj. Yes. So most importantly, why innovation is so important, why everyone is so much talking about the same. So now talking about the importance, the first important is innovation is often and very importantly necessary to overcome challenges of change. तो आप अगर देखेंगे कि जो इनोवेशंस की बात हम लोग करते हैं वो अपने आप में इतने इम्पोर्टेंट क्यों होता है क्योंकि whenever any company, any government, any nation, they are facing any sort of challenge, then they look forward for certain innovation, and that's where the innovation becomes so much important that everyone it to get the solutions out of it. So, in terms of importance, in the recent days of pandemic, in the recent days of n number of activities going around the world, innovation is coming up as one of the most happening buzzword, and that's why we need to understand कि हम as an entity, as an individual, how can we be a part of this overcoming buzz, right? So now let us look at what innovation exactly is. Pankaj, can you move to the next slide? So now when you talk about what is innovation, so if you're putting it in a very simple term, इसको हम लोग बोलते हैं innovation is about putting a new idea or approach into an action. When you come out with an idea, that how to convert that idea into a workable solution. आइडिया हर एक के माइंड में आता है, एवरी वन ऑफ अस गेट एन नंबर ऑफ आइडियाज, बट आउट ऑफ दोज आइडियाज कौन सा ऐसा एक्शन हम ले सो दैट दैट आइडिया गेट कन्वर्टेड इनटू अ कमर्शियली सक्सेसफुल exploitable entity. Until and unless we don't convert that idea into a actionable exploitation viable business, then there is no use of that idea. So I think if you have an idea, you need to sit down and make sure that if you are able to convert that idea into something commercially stable, which will be able to also create some sort of socio-economic impact as well, then we can call this as an innovation. Next slide, please. So now, since we are talking about the startup ecosystem in India, now, when we look at the startup ecosystem in India currently, we are the third largest ecosystem of the globe. That is, we have more than 69,000 DPIT recognized startups. That means these startups are being recognized by the government of India as an entity who are doing, creating any product, service, or solution which is of national importance, which is able to create some sort of socio-economic impact as well. So, in terms of that, we are the third largest. Also, we are the second ranked in terms of innovation quality. That yes, we are creating startups, but what sort of innovations we are creating, how those innovations are trying to solve certain problems which is of national or world level importance. So when you consider those also, we are ranking in terms of the innovation quality as well. Also, as of 5th May 2022, India is home to 100 unicorns. So, for those who are aware of the things unicorns, unicorns are those entities or those companies who have a current valuations of at least $1 billion or more. So, imagine we have such of 100 unicorns in our country, those unicorns who have created a solution which is scalable, which generating a good number of employment as well. So that's why these sort of entities which are called as unicorns, are having a number which is 100. So आप लोग जो स्टूडेंट्स हैं अगर सुनते होंगे कि आज इतने यूनिकॉर्न्स बने, इतने यूनिकॉर्न्स इंडिया में आ गए हैं या इतने यूनिकॉर्न्स बनने वाले हैं, so unicorns वो startups होते हैं who have created a good solution or they have raised some good amount of funding which is trying to update their product, trying to enhance their value propositions as well. So these are certain startups जिनका valuations अब 1 billion US dollar के ऊपर पहुंच चुका है. So those startups, those entities are called as unicorns. Next slide, please. So now coming on to, we hear a lot of things ki what the government or the entities which are working as the ecosystem enablers are doing for the startups. So let me tell you, the government is putting the best of their efforts in helping budding entrepreneurs, innovators to convert their ideas into a viable business. जो गवर्नमेंट है, एंड आई वुड ऑल्सो लाइक टू अप्रिशिएट द सिस्टेक टीम, स्पेशली मनीष सर, आशीष सर, आयुष जी, कविता जी एज वेल, फॉर गिविंग देयर बेस्ट while helping the students who are at SISTec, who have their entrepreneurship ability to convert those ability into a viable business. So I think I really appreciate the effort being put in by the SISTec team. So kudos to the whole team, SISTec, right? So now in terms of support, these are certain schemes which are going there along with n number of other schemes which are helping startups to convert their ideas into innovations into a viable business. Now what happens, कोई भी startup अगर होता है, so every startup is having different requirements. Some startup founders may require technological help. Some startup may require networking help. Some startup may require funding help. Some startup may require setting up of the entity help. So that's why there are n number of schemes which are going around. Schemes, वो सारी schemes हैं जो चल रही हैं, जो हर एक स्टार्टअप के रिक्वायरमेंट को ध्यान में रखते हुए करी गई हैं. साथ ही साथ में दे हैव ऑल्सो गिवन फोकस ऑन द सेक्टर्स एज वेल. ऐसा नहीं है कि गवर्नमेंट इज फोकसिंग ओनली ऑन अ सिंगल सेक्टर. They are very diversified, they are sector agnostic, they are helping every startup who may be doing innovative work in any domain. So if you see the list here, we have Atmanirbhar Bharat App Challenge. So here the government is trying to support an entity which is going to create an app, right? Then we have Startup India Seed Fund Scheme, wherein this is a sector agnostic theme. ये अपने आप में एक sector agnostic scheme है, wherein they are trying to help startup जिनके पास में innovative idea है, फिर वो किसी भी sector से हो. That can be from dairy, that can be from electrical, that can be from mechanical, that can be from fire and safety or whatever you call it. So अगर आपके पास में कोई innovative idea है, then the government is ready to help you out. अगर आप देखेंगे उसके बाद क्वालकॉम का सेमीकंडक्टर मेंटरशिप प्रोग्राम है, वेयर इन क्वालकॉम along with NASSCOM is coming into play to help startups who are doing something very innovative into the deep tech also. So ये स्कीम्स को मेरे को आपको बताने का मोशन यहाँ पर ये है कि द गवर्नमेंट और द एंटिटीज, बी गवर्नमेंट और प्राइवेट, दे आर देयर टू हेल्प यू. So if you have any idea in your mind, do not hesitate. Go to your faculties, go to your IIC team members, discuss with them, and they are the right people to guide you to help you convert that idea into a viable business. So these are certain schemes which are going around which can help convert your idea into a successful business. Next slide, please. So now coming on to the very important part. Yes, हम में से हर कोई आइडियाज लेकर आता है, इनोवेशंस लेकर आता है, बट व्हाई दिस इनोवेशंस और दिस आइडिया आर नॉट एबल टू सक्सीड. सो इफ यू गो इनटू द फिगर, अगर आप देखेंगे तो अगर परसेंटेज की हम लोग बात करते हैं, तो इन टर्म्स ऑफ परसेंटेज द सक्सेस रेशियो इज not more than 5 to 10%. That means people who are having startups, trying to create a startup, only 5 to maximum of 10% of the that able to convert that idea into a successful business. So that's why we need to understand, हमें यहाँ पर समझना पड़ेगा कि why those ideas fail. So I have listed certain points here. Yes, there can be more, but these are certain broad points which play very important role in converting that into a successful entity. The first and foremost is the lack of proper planning. So everybody knows whenever you enter into any sort of business, if you are entering into it without proper planning, and the planning here includes a proper process जिसमें हम लोग बात करते हैं अगर आपके पास में कोई आइडिया है, so then from ideation you should go to the validation stage first, which personally मेरा मानना है कि the validation stage for any idea is the most important stage. So what do you mean by validation? So validation means कि जो आइडिया आपके माइंड में आया है उसको आप लोग जज करते हो n नंबर ऑफ फैक्टर्स के बेसिस पर कि क्या ये जो आइडिया मेरे माइंड में आया है will that be viable, will that be acceptable in the market. So in terms of when you do the validation part, there is a proper research which is to be done कि ये प्रोडक्ट को मार्केट में अगर मैं लेकर जा रहा हूँ तो इसका मार्केट में क्या एक्सेप्टेबिलिटी होगा, who will be my end customers, what will be my business model, what will be my go to market strategy, what technology should I be using. I should be using a technology X or I should be using technology Y, and उसके पीछे भी रीजन होता है कि why I'm using those technology, right? Then we are talking about the validation part wherein we do a proper market research कि जब ये आइडिया हम मार्केट में लेकर जाएंगे तो ये आइडिया के सक्सेसफुल होने के क्या अपने पास में रेशियोज हैं. And once you are satisfied with the validation, then you should be going for the next part, that is the execution part. So the validation of the idea in itself is the most important part of creating a startup. Secondly, lack of funding. But this point, why I'm putting up here is not because of lack of funding, but because of the lack of information related to funding instruments availability. So I must make it clear here, by the lack of funding, we are not meaning the funds are not available. Yes, the government and other private ecosystem enablers are there to help you out in the best possible manner in terms of funds. So if you have a unique idea which is scalable, then the fund is not an issue. Third and most important aspect, along with the proper planning, is the business model failure. Now, what do I mean by business model is how your idea will generate revenue. What are the revenue streams here? So until and unless you are not clear that what will be my revenue streams, how the cash will flow in and the cash will flow out, that becomes very important part. तो यहाँ पर आपको सोचना पड़ेगा कि अगर मार्केट में मैं जा रहा हूँ एक आइडिया को लेकर, then how should I create the business model? How should I will be generating revenue out of it, and how to create multiple revenue streams. फॉर एग्जाम्पल आप लोगों ने जितने लोगों ने देखा होगा कि इनिशियली व्हेन पेटीएम जब इनिशियल लेवल पर मार्केट में आया था, सो किस चीज के लिए आया था? मेनली फॉर मोबाइल रिचार्जेस, D2H recharges, all those kind of stuff, right? But now you look at पेटीएम. आज आप देखिए पेटीएम, आई डोंट थिंक कि ऐसी कोई सर्विस है जो पेटीएम नहीं दे रहा है, right? So this is a part of their business modeling, that in the first phase we will be concentrating on this, the second, in the third, in the fourth, in the fifth phase we will be concentrating on this, and how the revenue generated out of the first phase will be utilized to create the second phase, and so on. So that's why creating a proper business model is very important. And trust me, if you are not good at it, अगर आपके पास में इसका एक्सपोजर नहीं है, so I would personally recommend कि जो इस चीज को क्रिएट करने के एक्सपर्ट होते हैं, you go and meet them. कई बार स्टार्टअप फाउंडर्स को लगता है कि नहीं ये हम कर सकते हैं, बट ट्रस्ट मी, इफ यू डोंट हैव द एक्सपर्टीज फॉर दिस, आई वुड पर्सनली रिकमेंड go to the experts and talk to them while creating a proper business model, right? Next comes poor marketing. Everyone knows, it is a fact that अगर आपके पास में अच्छा प्रोडक्ट है but still you are not able to make it reach out to your end customer, then that product is of no use. अगर आपके पास में कोई सॉल्यूशन है, कोई सर्विस है जो आप प्रोवाइड करा रहे हो, लेकिन उसके बारे में अगर आपके एंड कस्टमर को पता ही नहीं है, then there is no use of that specific product or service or solution. So that's why creating a proper marketing strategy becomes very important. It again is a part of the business model process, but I personally recommend it creating very separately, so that you have the budget allotted for it, so that you have a proper output analysis to be done by कि अगर मैंने marketing में इतना खर्चा किया है तो what are the returns I am getting, what platforms I should be utilizing while creating the marketing strategy, how much budget should be allocated to X platforms, Y platform or the Z platform. And it will vary according to the product, it will vary according to the services. तो कई बार स्टार्टअप ये गलती करते हैं कि एक मार्केटिंग स्ट्रेटेजी जो एक स्टार्टअप ने बनाई थी उसी को वो लोग कॉपी कर लेते हैं. But since your product is different, since your target customer is different, so that's why आपका marketing strategy भी different होना ही चाहिए. If you're copying it from someone else, trust me, there is more chance of you getting failure out of it than ratio is high, right? Importantly, the last one, which is the lack of focus. वी ऑल्सो अंडरस्टैंड कि हम अगर कहीं पर जा रहे हैं, किसी रास्ते पर चल रहे हैं, देन देयर विल बी एन नंबर ऑफ एवेन्यूज जो रास्ते में हमारे पास में आते हैं, एंड वी ट्राई टू मूव फ्रॉम द वर्क और द पाथ दैट वी हैव डिसाइडेड एट द इनिशियल स्टेज. सो अगर आप एक स्टार्टअप आइडिया को लेकर चल रहे हैं, यस देयर विल बी एन नंबर ऑफ अदर एवेन्यूज व्हिच मे कम, but if you are moving away from the initially set up idea, then the chances are there that at the end you will not be able to succeed at anyone. आप अगर सोच रहे हैं कि ठीक है चलो मैंने एक टेक्नोलॉजी बनाया है, उस टेक्नोलॉजी को मैं इस एंड यूजर के लिए लाया था, पर इन बिटवीन कैन आई डू दैट फॉर अनदर यूजर, and until and unless your this specific product or solution is not created in a full manner, I would not suggest कि आप अपने आप को यहाँ से दूसरी तरफ ले जाएं. So that's why having the focus for the whole journey is very important, very important. So do not lose your focus, stick to your plans, stick to your strategy that you have built. Yes, there can be certain changes here or there, but that not should not be a big one. That should be someone which is necessary to keep the initial idea running, right? So that's why lack of focus, sometimes you have a good idea, you have a good business model, you have a good marketing strategy, but still if you lose focus from your end goals, then there are chances you will not be able to get to the last point and convert that idea into something very big and something very successful. Next slide please. uh, yeah, so now we have seen what are the certain problems which are being faced by startups जो उनको रोकता है एक स्टार्टअप आइडिया को कन्वर्ट करने में एक सक्सेसफुल बिजनेस मॉडल में. So that's where to help the startups losing not to those points, the ecosystem enablers come into play. And now what is the role of the ecosystem enablers? हम उनके बारे में बात करेंगे. द फर्स्ट एंड फॉरमोस्ट इज टू डेवलप देयर बिजनेस गोल्स और द बिजनेस मॉडल स्पेशली इन द इनिशियल स्टेजेस, बिकॉज सी एट द इनिशियल स्टेजेस आपके पास में सिर्फ एक आइडिया होता है, आपको उस पर प्रॉपर गाइडेंस चाहिए होता है कि हाउ टू कन्वर्ट दैट आइडिया इनटू अ सक्सेसफुल बिजनेस. एंड नाउ what are the resources which are required to convert that idea into a successful business. So that's where this ecosystem enablers, the likes of incubation centers, the likes of e-cells come to play and help these young entrepreneurs, innovators to get to the end point. Now, in terms of proper support, what sort of specific facilities we are talking about here? So, in terms of proper facilities, we are talking is technological, growth funds, networks, co-working spaces, specific lab facilities, mentoring and advisory support. So, as I told you in our previous sections as well, a startup may require different type of support and different stage. हर एक स्टार्टअप को डिफरेंट सपोर्ट की जरूरत होती है अपने अलग अलग स्टेजेस पर. सो जैसे मैंने आपको बताया था, तो वो प्रोवाइड करने के लिए द इकोसिस्टम एनेबलर्स आर देयर in terms of technology, in terms of funding enabling, in terms of co-working spaces, in terms of lab facilities and mentoring and advising support. Also, the most important part is to provide a conducive environment of personalized resources. ये important इसलिए भी होता है कि until and unless जब तक एक प्रॉपर गाइडेंस आपको नहीं मिलेगा जो आपको सपोर्ट करे आपकी हर एक स्टेज पर, एंड नॉट ओनली इवेल्युएट बट ऑल्सो सपोर्ट. Evaluations can be done by another entity, external entity, but the internal support which is required, if it is not provided at the right time, at the right place, then it becomes very difficult to convert that innovations into viable, successful business. So that's why this ecosystem enablers like currently जो आज हम लोग कर रहे हैं, जैसे सिस्टेक ने आज आपके लिए एक सेशन रखा है, it is a session to make you understand कि yes, if you have a startup idea or a good idea, we are there to help you convert that idea into a proper viable successful business, right? So next slide please. So as I told you, this is now, since I'm talking on behalf of AIC Prestige, I would like to give a brief about what AIC Prestige is. So AIC Prestige stands for Atal Incubation Center, which is in conjunction with the Prestige Group. So Atal Incubation Centers are concerned centers which are being working under the aegis of Atal Innovation Mission, Niti Aayog, Government of India. So the basic purpose of setting up of AICs by Atal Innovation Mission is to provide a bucket of services which are required by startups, budding entrepreneurs. For example, यहाँ पर हम बात करें कि this is a complete set of services. Yes, we can go out of it as well, but these are the broad services which are being provided by incubation centers. For example, seed funding is there, IP property right is there, networking support is there, right? So there are n number of activities which come into this part. So if you are talking about seed funding, so seed funding में we can help startup to raise grant, we can help them raise debt funding. So depending on the stage, आप किस स्टेज पर हैं, क्या आपका आइडिया है, we will suggest you कि okay, आपको अभी ग्रांट के लिए जाना चाहिए, आपको अभी डेट फंडिंग के लिए जाना चाहिए, what should be your valuations, how much equity you should dilute. So these are next level things I'm talking about. So why I'm showing this thing is because I want to make sure that you should understand, every student who is trying to create a startup or wish to create a startup, yes, every sort of services or support is there for you to get help out. आपको किसी भी टाइप का हेल्प चाहिए, ecosystem enablers like us are there to help you out. So that's why I just put it this thing in front of you. Next slide, please. So as I told you, we at AIC Prestige follow a proper, specially curated incubation process. So if we are talking about the broad categories, which are, the first is startup creation, then the early stage and the expansion. So we have described the whole life of a startup into three broad categories. So the first one I'm talking about is startup creation. स्टार्टअप क्रिएशन में वो पार्ट आता है कि जहां पर आपके पास में एक आइडिया है, आप एक आइडिया लेकर हमारे पास, हमारे एक्सपर्ट के पास आते हो, देन वी सिट विथ यू, हम लोग डिस्कस किन किन चीजों पे करते हैं. द फर्स्ट इज इनोवेशन असेसमेंट. हम लोग, जैसे मैंने आपको बताया था कि वो जो आइडिया हमारे पास में लेकर आप आए हैं, उसको हम लोग आपके साथ मिलकर वी गेट टू अ वैलिडेशन प्रोसेस दैट हाउ इफेक्टिव दिस आइडिया कैन बी व्हेन इट इज टेकन टू द मार्केट. And post validation, if we find okay, the validation that we have done, we are satisfied with it, and the market is having a requirement of such sort of solutions, then we go to the second part, that is the business plan creation. Ki how we will now convert this innovation into a proper business. In that thing we will talk about the business modeling part and also the training. In terms of training, let us assume you have come to us, आप हमारे पास में आए हो, you are trying to create a prototype, आप एक solution बनाना चाह रहे हो, but you require a proper training. Let's say you want to create an app, but for that you require a training on, let's say, PHP or Java for that matter. So we will be there to help you connect with mentors जो लोग उस specific सॉल्यूशन को क्रिएट करने के लिए टेक्नोलॉजिकल जो हेल्प चाहिए प्रोडक्ट क्रिएशन में, वो लोग आपको करके देंगे. सो इन टर्म्स ऑफ ट्रेनिंग वी विल फैसिलिटेट यू टू द मेंटर्स हु आर एक्सपर्ट एट इट. सो एंड दिस होल प्रोसेस कम्स इनटू प्री इंक्यूबेशन. सो इंक्यूबेट होने के पहले भी दिस इज द प्रोसेस अ स्टार्टअप नीड्स टू गो until and unless ये वैलिडेशन का पार्ट है. दैट्स व्हाई आई टोल्ड यू, पहले भी आपको बताया था कि वैलिडेशन, यस, इट इज अ वेरी long process, but trust me, You don't want to create a product which is not acceptable in the market. आप कोई ऐसा प्रोडक्ट क्रिएट करना नहीं चाहेंगे जो मार्केट में जाने के बाद उसको यूज करने वाला कोई ना हो. So it is better we do the validation part in the most sincere of manners so that we can get proper update whether this innovation, solution, service, whatever we are creating will be acceptable in the market or not. Yes, there will be chances that validation में हमारे पास में कुछ inputs आए थे. When you go to the market, there are certain changes. So we will be ready for that if we have a proper business modeling. So then we move on to the second stage that is called as the early stage, also called as the incubation. Incubation may once we are ready with the product, the prototype or the MVP, then what comes to the mind? How to get to the finance part to create that product into a proper manner which can be taken to the market. That is called as the scaling up. Now what you're trying to do is scaling up your product, updating your product to take it to the market, to take it to the end customers. उसमें आपको टाइम टाइम पर कुछ चीजें लगती हैं. आपका कोचिंग एंड मेंटरिंग टाइम टू टाइम बेसिस पर, कमर्शियलाइजेशन कैसे करना है, एडवांस बिजनेस प्लानिंग की. नाउ आप मार्केट में आ गए हो, आपने रेवेन्यू जनरेट करना स्टार्ट कर दिया है, बट हाउ टू एनहांस दिस रेवेन्यू, हाउ टू क्रिएट मोर रेवेन्यू स्ट्रीम्स आउट ऑफ इट, इस प्रोडक्ट से, इस सर्विसेज से, और किस किस तरीके से वी कैन जनरेट मोर रेवेन्यू. So that part comes under the incubation part wherein we help startups जिनके पास में एक प्रोडक्ट रेडी हो चुका है, अब उस प्रोडक्ट को बेस्ट पॉसिबल वे में मार्केट की तरफ ले जाना, उसका रेवेन्यू बढ़ाने में हेल्प करो. So that comes into the early stage. The last or the final stage what we call is the expansion stage, which is we called as post incubation. मतलब यहाँ पर वो स्टार्टअप्स हैं जो हमारी इंक्यूबेशन प्रोसेस से बाहर हो चुके हैं, बट स्टिल वी आर देयर टू हेल्प देम, वी आर देयर टू हेल्प देम टू रीच आउट इवन मोर हाइट्स. तो वहां पर हम लोग फिर वापस बैठ जाते हैं ब्लैक बोर्ड पर, हम देखते हैं कि अभी तक हमने जो काम कर लिया है उसको हम और ज्यादा एफिशिएंट इफेक्टिव कैसे बना सकते हैं. तो दैट्स व्हेयर वी गो एंड डू द इनोवेशन डायग्नोस्टिक्स, कि अभी तक जो हमारा सॉल्यूशन काम कर रहा है उसने क्या क्या रिजल्ट्स हमको दिए हैं, एंड हाउ दिस रिजल्ट्स कैन बी मोर इफेक्टिवली इम्प्लीमेंटेड इन अदर सेगमेंट्स आल्सो. हम क्या उसको आउट ऑफ इंडिया ले जा सकते हैं. अभी तक हम जो सॉल्यूशन दे रहे थे वो समझी इंडियन लेवल पर दे रहे थे, तो हाउ दिस सॉल्यूशन ऑफ आवर्स कैन बी टेकन टू द वर्ल्ड आउटसाइड इंडिया एज वेल. तो उसके करने के लिए हमें क्या क्या टेक्नोलॉजिकल करना पड़ेगा, उसमें क्लस्टरिंग हमें कैसे करना पड़ेगा. क्लस्टरिंग इन द सेंस कि अगर हम इंडिया में बैठे हुए हैं, लेट अस से वी वांट टू पुट एन ऑफिस इन यूएसए टू लॉन्च आवर प्रोडक्ट, सो व्हाट इज द प्रोसेस वी नीड टू फॉलो. तो वहां पर आप लोगों को जो प्रोसेस गाइडेंस चाहिए होता है, that we are there to help you out. So how to set up your clusters in different part of the world. Most importantly जब हम outside India की बात करते हैं, so how to develop their businesses outside India as well. So all these processes comes into the last part which is post incubation, wherein we have helped the startups to develop a prototype. उस प्रोटोटाइप को हमने इंडियन कंटेक्स्ट में अच्छे से सेल कराने में हेल्प भी कर दिया है. नाउ वी विश टू टेक इट टू द ब्रॉडर लेवल्स एज. So this is the whole process which we at AIC Prestige follow to help the startups who are working with us to convert their ideas into a viable, successful business. Next slide, please. Yes. So now, since we are here today and majorly we have certain students or the faculties which are coming from the electrical domain, if I'm not wrong there. So I have tried to fetch out certain details that why this domain, maybe people are not looking at it that manner, but I personally am looking at very anxiously with curiosity and huge expectations as well, because this is a domain which is the backbone of n number of innovations. Trust me on this part. So this domain is backbone of majority of innovations. And if you see, this is the data which is I have fetched. So this is the impact of top 10 electronic manufacturing trends and innovation in 2022. So if you see some good startups जिनका नाम आप लोग सुनते होंगे, somehow somewhere down the line they have utilized anything related to electrical and electronics. If you talk about advanced materials, so what is the backbone of it? Electronics. If you're talking about embedded systems, printed electronics, what is the backbone of it? So we are here talking about a domain which may not be that well versed, जिनके बारे में लोग अभी बात नहीं कर रहे हैं. But trust me, this is a domain which is the backside of everything. Majority of things which are innovations are done are going through that. If you talk about 3D printing, अगर आप एक प्रोटोटाइप बना रहे हैं, if you are not good at 3D printing, then what will happen? So if you are an expert at 3D printing analytics, trust me, there is a huge demand for such sort of solution or such sort of expertise. So if you look at this graph, you can see this domain is a happening domain, and I personally am very accurately and aggressively looking onto this domain. Now, if you talk about the opportunities here, what are the opportunities? So the opportunities are galore. अब opportunities की बात करें electrical domain में, you can go to manufacturing. In manufacturing, you can manufacture equipments, instruments, whatever you call it. You can go to consultancy. So there are, for example, government का कोई project आ रहा है, they want to set up it. So they always go and take consultancy from the expertise of the sector. कि how should we proceed out of it? How should we go ahead? What are the resources required? What sort of instrument we need to apply here? So अगर आपके पास में वो expertise है, then there is a huge opportunity for you people. टेस्टिंग की हम लोग बात कर रहे हैं. टेस्टिंग, अब अगर आप कोई बात करें, कोई भी इंस्ट्रूमेंट बन रहा है बड़े लेवल पर, मैच्योरिटी लेवल पर, देन without proper testing through an expert, that cannot be taken to the market. So here you go again. If you have the expertise into the testing domain for electrical, then you have a huge demand there. Analytics, once the product is into the market. So हमने एक बात देखा, सबसे पहला वर्ड इसका इनोवेशन. इनोवेशन का इफेक्ट तभी आता है when you continuously are evaluating the data that is coming out, and then accordingly to create different things. तो हम जब एनालिटिक्स की बात करते हैं, yes, we have created the instrument, हमने प्रोटोटाइप बना लिया है, हमने मार्केट में चला भी दिया है, but how that instrument is performing, उसका परफॉर्मेंस क्या आ रहा है, हम उसको कैसे बेटर कर सकते हैं, उसमें क्या अपग्रेडेशन कर सकते हैं. So if you are having an expertise of that area, then again there is opportunities for you. Lastly, but most importantly, control and automation. Everyone is now looking very closely with the automation part, which is under the industry 4.0 or industry 5.0 as people are calling it. So now everything which is coming out of the automation part or control systems part, if you are having a proper expertise of it, trust me, again there is a huge demand which is coming, which is already there. So if you talk about startup opportunities along with job opportunities in electrical domain, these are certain hot categories which are effective as of now as well, and I'm expecting it to grow twofold, threefold in the coming, let's say, 5 to 6 years as well. So guys who are into electrical domain, who have just entered, trust me, you are at the right place, if I'm not wrong. Right? Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah. So now we have seen the opportunities. That now let us focus on the sectors which are currently in so much of news, so much of attractive interference from investors, government agencies as well. So I don't think कि ऐसा अभी कोई भी यहाँ पर बैठा होगा जिसने इन चीजों का नाम नहीं सुना है. Everyone is going gaga about electrical vehicles. Yes, there are certain things which are negative right now, but this thing happens because we are in the early stages. We are still in the prototype testing phase. So these things will happen. But trust me, guys, this is the future. This is the future. So here is the opportunity. अगर आपके पास में expertise है electrical vehicles को लेकर, then you have the trend to go with it, and you have good opportunities to explore yourself, your abilities into the sector. So if you talk about electrical vehicles, everyone know they are the future. Yes, you can have a number of points here, so but I think this is the future. Connected to that as well, the battery management system. So once the electrical vehicles comes to play into the model, then how to improve the efficiency of the batteries which are connected to it. Do you have any idea which you can implement here? Then the stage is open for you guys. Connected to that, we have seen that once the electrical vehicle is being implemented at large, then we are expecting a different sort of metering system to be put up to encourage people who are using e-vehicles to go through the stations or put this system at their home. So once this sort of systems are being put in place, इस type के systems जब लग जाएंगे, then there will be huge demand for smart energy meters. So, do you have any sort of technology, any sort of idea you wish to work? You're open for it. Similarly, we are going for the EV charging. If you have electrical vehicles, we have EV charging stations, whatever you wish to call. So, do you have anything which you can do into the EV charging? Lastly, but not most importantly, renewable energy. So when you're talking about a renewal or the alternate source of energy, trust me guys, somewhere somehow down the line, you need to have certain expertise area which is coming from the electrical or the electronics. If you're trying to set up a solar panel, if you're trying to set up a solar panel at your house or at mud or at sand, you need to create differences here. And that is done by some experts only, not outsiders, right? So these are certain areas, and trust me, there are n number of more areas which are there to be explored. So for me, I'm quite bullish on this specific sectors in terms of electrical domain as of now, right? Next slide, please. So, guys, at last, I hope I was able to give you some sort of information that yes, there is enough support available from entities, private, government, or anyone to help an innovative idea convert to a successful, viable business. So trust me on that part. You, if you are having a good idea, आपके पास में कोई innovative solutions है, तो do not hesitate. Go and meet your faculties. Go and meet your members at the IIC or you are at your ESET and talk to them. They will help you. They will guide you how you can convert that idea into a successful, viable business. Right? Last slide, please. So this is all from my side. We are at AIC Prestige. We are in center supported by Atal Innovation Mission, NITI Aayog, Government of India. So if any individual, any student, any faculty require any sort of help from us regarding their startup idea, how to convert that, how to ideate that as well, we are open for that, right? So thank you guys, thanks a lot for taking out your time and giving me this opportunity to express my thoughts here, and I hope I was able to give my best in terms of conveying the support or the information that was requested from me. Thank you, Kavita ji, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for sharing your knowledge and the process of incubation and the process of incubation center and the startup process that what we should do. So we have some questions from our
Sure,
student
sure,
side.
sure.
Yes,
We'll
sir.
be more
So
than
the
happy,
first
yeah.
question is, what
Mhm.
is the process of getting fund through the AIC, sir?
Right. So see, as I told you, na, AIC stands for Atal Incubation Center,
Yes, sir.
and we, as an incubation center, cannot be the direct provider of funds. We are the facilitator. So yes, we can help you facilitate funds through different schemes. We directly do not provide funds, but we help you prepare for grants coming from governments, grants coming from private entities as well. That can be through banks, that can be through private entities, that can be through any scheme specifically. And there are n number of opportunities in terms of funding. So मेरे पास कई बच्चे आते हैं, कई स्टार्टअप्स आते हैं, बोलते हैं कि सर फंडिंग की दिक्कत है। तो मैं उनसे कहता हूँ फंडिंग की दिक्कत बिल्कुल नहीं है। इफ यू हैव अ गुड आइडिया, फंडिंग इज अवेलेबल।
Yes, sir. Sir, as you talk about the seed funding, right?
हम्म।
So how a student can apply in it and what is the process of it?
सी सो इट अगेन डिपेंड स्कीम टू स्कीम। जो सीड फंडिंग की हम लोग बात करते हैं ये स्कीम टू स्कीम वेरी करता है। नाउ लेट अस टॉक अबाउट द करेंटली प्रिवेलिंग स्टार्टअप इंडिया सीड फंड स्कीम। अब जो स्टार्टअप इंडिया सीड फंड स्कीम है उसमें देयर आर सर्टेन क्राइटेरियाज विच अ स्टार्टअप नीड टू फुलफिल, कि आपका जो एंटिटी है वो इनकॉर्पोरेटेड होना चाहिए। इनकॉर्पोरेटेड यानी कि वो या तो एक प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कंपनी हो, एक रजिस्टर्ड पार्टनरशिप फर्म हो, या फिर एक एलएलपी कंपनी। दिस इज द फर्स्ट क्राइटेरिया। सेकेंडली, यू शुड बी डीपीआईटी रिकॉग्नाइज्ड। अगर आपके पास में डीपीआईटी रिकॉग्नाइज स्टेटस है देन यू बिकम एलिजिबल टू अप्लाई फॉर स्टार्टअप इंडिया सीड फंड स्कीम, right? This is I'm talking about startup India seed fund scheme. There can be certain schemes wherein seed fund is provided to a startup which is at the ideation stage. तो अगर आप ideation stage पर भी हैं तो then you need to create a proper application कि ये जो मेरा आइडिया है, what is the problem statement, what is the solution I am providing, what is my projection for coming 2 year 3 year down the line. So there is a proper application which need to be prepared in order to get the seed fund.
So we have one more question. How a
Sure.
student can validate the process, the idea?
Hmm.
As you said that the validation
Mhm.
process
Mhm.
is the most important stage of any
एग्जैक्ट
startup.
एग्जैक्टली एग्जैक्टली सो कविता जी क्या होता है कि वैलिडेशन का जो प्रोसेस है ये स्टार्टअप टू स्टार्टअप वेरी करेगा, आइडिया टू आइडिया वेरी करेगा। बिकॉज आपका प्रोडक्ट अलग होगा, आपका टारगेट सेगमेंट अलग होगा, राइट? सो इफ आई एम गिविंग अ नॉर्मल एग्जांपल कि आप अगर मार्केट में कोई प्रोडक्ट लेकर आ रहे हैं, सो व्हाट आई मीन बाय वैलिडेशन ऑफ इट इज कि फर्स्ट एंड फॉरमोस्ट उस प्रोडक्ट का उस मार्केट में क्या एक्सेप्टेबिलिटी है, क्या अभी उस प्रोडक्ट का मार्केट में रिक्वायरमेंट है भी या नहीं। If the requirement of the product is not in the market, then there is no use of launching the product. So आपको मार्केट में जाकर पता करना पड़ेगा जो भी आपके एंड कस्टमर्स हैं। लेट अस अज्यूम आप लोग एक डिवाइस क्रिएट कर रहे हैं जो कि मेजर करेगा अटेंडेंस को। आई एम टेकिंग अ रफ एग्जांपल हियर। सो अब आप मार्केट में जाके पहले ये पता करिए कि कितने लोग इस टाइप का सिस्टम यूज करने के लिए तैयार हैं। इसमें से कुछ लोग ऐसे होंगे जो ऑलरेडी यूज कर रहे होंगे, तो हमको फिर ये देखना पड़ेगा कि अगर वो ऑलरेडी यूज कर रहे हैं तो फिर वो हमारे सिस्टम क्यों यूज करें। जो लोग यूज नहीं कर रहे हैं उनसे हम लोग समझें कि वो यूज क्यों नहीं कर रहे हैं, व्हाट आर द प्रॉब्लम। उनके लिए उसको इम्प्लीमेंट करना प्रॉब्लम है, उसका कॉस्ट प्रॉब्लम है, उसको मेंटेन करना प्रॉब्लम है। तो व्हाट इज द प्रॉब्लम हियर। सो जब आप जाकर लोगों से मिलेंगे, बात करेंगे, देन यू विल गेट टू नो कि एग्जैक्टली मार्केट में रिक्वायरमेंट क्या है, and then accordingly requirement of the market you should be creating the product or the service so that your chances of acceptability increases. So this is just a small part of the validation process.
Sir, as you are working as a incubation manager at
Mhm.
AIC sector, yes, sir. So,
Yeah.
sir, what are the major schemes for electrical student?
Yeah, so if you talk about, there is a scheme which is going around Samrid, which is launched by the
Some
Ministry of Electronics and Telecommunication. So this is specifically for ideas, innovations who are developing product services related to electrical and electronics, right? So ये तो अपने आप में एक specific scheme है। There are n number of schemes जो sector agnostic हैं। They don't look at कि whether you are providing a solution in app or in a services or in a e-commerce or in electronic device। अगर आपके पास में एक बेहतरीन सॉल्यूशन है, बेहतरीन इनोवेटिव सॉल्यूशन है, so there are n number of schemes कविता जी going around. So as I told you, funding is not an issue right now. There is no issue. अगर आप अपने आइडिया को बेस्ट पॉसिबल वे में दिखा सकते हैं that yes, why this idea will become a successful in the market, if you are having a proper facts and figures supporting it, then trust me, the stage is yours, as I told you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for answering these questions. Ashish. Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for accepting our invitation and sharing your knowledge with us, sir, in this session.
Sure, sure.
Thank you,
So
sir.
it's a really a privilege for me, and I would like to thank the whole SISTec team, especially Manish sir, Ashish ji, Ayush ji, Kavita ji, and Manish ji as well for supporting me, cooperating me, and making this a very innovative event in a sense that which we feel ki should encourage the students at your institute to become entrepreneurs, to come to you with certain innovative ideas, and we are there to help you out in the any manner that you require from our side, right? So thank you, Kavita ji. Thanks for your support and cooperation. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.